Okay, and finally we're going to be looking at, for muscle identifications, we're going to be looking at muscles of the pelvis and of the lower limbs. And specifically we're going to be looking at these ones, the gluteal muscles, thigh adductors, hip flexors, flexors of the knee, extensors of the knee, and then ones that move the foot and the toes. And so let me go ahead and go through these. Now, just like we've talked about before, one of the first things you need to do whenever you look at an image is see, can I orient myself to this image? So it says here it's a posterior view. How do I know that? One of the best places to look is the knee. And so here's the knee, and I ask myself, do I see a kneecap? If the answer is no, then you are looking at the back side. If the answer is yes, you're looking at the front side. Now, let me show you a couple of muscles up here, and then I will give you another orientation point so you can know which side is lateral, outside, which side is medial, inside. Okay, so first of all, this muscle most people have heard of, gluteus meaning your rear end region, and maximus meaning the large one. So this is the large muscle across your rear end. Okay. This muscle is going to run into a tendon sheet called the iliotibial tract, and this runs on the lateral portion of your thigh. So this is my other thing that I use to orient myself. I look at the knee to see am I looking at front or back, and then the iliotibial tract will mark the lateral portion of that upper leg. Okay. Now above the gluteus maximus is the gluteus medius, this muscle right here. Okay, and you may notice it's attached to this iliac crest up at the top. Okay, so across kind of mirror images, bookends, we have the iliotibial tract here, and on the medial side, right down the middle, is going to be the gracilis muscle. So gracilis muscle on the inside, iliotibial tract. Some people call it iliotibial tract. You may have heard of it as the IT band. Make sure on your practical exam that you put iliotibial tract, but IT band is often what it's commonly called. So iliotibial band on the lateral edge, gracilis on the medial side. Now, gracilis is going to have two adductors on either side of it. On the back side is the adductor magnus, and I think adductor magnus is right near gluteus maximus, so two big muscles. Magnus means big, maximus means big. Okay, there are three muscles on the back side, commonly called the hamstrings, and these muscles are called the biceps femoris. There is a long head, short head, you don't really need to know that, but biceps femoris is this one. Right next to it here is the semitendinosus, and next to that, the bulk of it is right here, the semimembranosus. Now there is a little bit of the semimembranosus that peeks out here. So how do I remember that? Biceps femoris, semitendinosus, semimembranosus. This is the little trick that I teach my students. Okay, so biceps femoris. And keep in mind, biceps means two heads. Femoris means it's in the femoral region. We had a biceps brachii in the brachial region, and now we have a biceps femoris in that femoris region. So biceps femoris, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus. Okay, this is how I remember it. It's got a B, and this is in the order you see it. B, T, M. Okay, I remember it by the mnemonic, bring the muscles. Okay, that means I can do this. Okay, and I think it is B for biceps femoris, T for semitendinosus, and M for semimembranosus. Okay, so bring the muscles. Now, the other thing that I see students often mix up is remembering that this one is lateral. This one is on the outside. So I think bye sounds a lot like bye-bye when you're telling someone goodbye. And you tell someone goodbye when they're on their way out. They're towards the outside. Okay, so this one is on the outside of the leg, or in anatomical terms, it is lateral. Okay, so these are some of the things that I use to remember the orientation of these muscles. If they help you, great. If not, go on the internet, do some Googling, find some that work better for you. Okay, so again, gracilis muscle, opposite of the iliotibial tract, adductor magnus, the large adductor right next to gracilis. It's also near the gluteus maximus. And then we have bring the muscles, biceps femoris, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus, keeping in mind that the bulk of the semimembranosus is on the medial side. Okay, now here, what view are we looking at? Well, we're looking at an anterior view. What are our clues? One big clue, we see a kneecap, so we're looking from the front side. Another clue also is if we're looking here at the vertebra, we see the bodies, but we don't see the spinous processes. And so that lets us know we're looking at the anterior side of these bones as well. Okay, so just to orient yourself, gracilis is on this medial side here. Okay, IT band over here, iliotibial tract on the lateral side. Okay, so first I want to talk to you about a muscle called the iliopsoas. From here down to here is kind of, they pulled it away, but it's a ligament called the inguinal ligament. It marks this inguinal region right here. And above that, these are two separate muscles, the iliacus and the psoas major. But below it, you can see here, they actually combine together, and that's where it's called the iliopsoas. Now, we also have this muscle here, the pectineus, and right next to it is the adductor longus. So remember I said on either side of gracilis are adductor muscles. On the back side, the posterior view, is the adductor magnus, right next to the big gluteus maximus. And then on the front side is the adductor longus. So we go gracilis, and that can be a landmark, adductor longus, pectineus, and then we go up to iliopsoas. Okay, so that is the order across there. Now this muscle right here is the sartorius muscle. It's the one that means like a tailor, and I think of a tailor pinning a piece of cloth in a diagonal across the front of your thigh. So that is sartorius. Connected to the iliotibial band on the front side is this muscle called the tensor fasciae latae. And I think tensor means it's going to cause tension, fascia, and then latte, I think of the coffee drink, and so I think of somebody tapping their hips and being very tense because they haven't gotten their latte yet. Okay, so tensor fasciae latae. Then we're going to have the quads, the quadriceps muscles. There are going to be 4 of them. 3 you can see superficially, and the 4th one is deep. So rectus femoris, it's the one that's straight up in the femoral region, so rectus femoris. On either side, you're going to have vastus muscles. Vastus lateralis on the lateral side, and vastus medialis on the medial side. A phrase that I kind of tell my students is that if I have good quads, I can run the vastus. Ha ha ha, I can run the fastest. Okay, so that's kind of how I remember it. Vastus lateralis, vastus medialis. So where would the vastus intermedius be? Well, you're actually going to have to pull back the rectus femoris, and it's in between the lateralis and the medialis. Okay, again, now let's look at another part of the leg. We're looking at the lower leg now. We're looking at a posterior view. How do we know it's posterior? Well, we've got a couple of hints. One, we can not see a kneecap, looking at the back side. The other is here we can see the heel, and notice the toes are up front. Okay, in particular, we can't see that big toe. It's hidden. So this is another hint that we're looking at the back side. Okay, so the big muscle here, it's both of these. It's got two heads to it, or two attachment points, is the gastrocnemius. Okay, and this, for whatever reason, happens to be my favorite muscle. I just think it looks very lovely dissected out. Attaching to the gastrocnemius is this long tendon. It's called the calcaneal tendon, and it attaches to the calcaneus. Sometimes you may have heard of it referred to as the Achilles heel or the Achilles tendon because of the mythological story, but keep in mind the anatomical term is calcaneal tendon. Deep to the gastrocnemius, and you can see the edges poking out here, is going to be the soleus muscle. And the way I remember this one, remembering it's deep, is that to get to someone's soul, yes, you have to dig deep. Okay, so to get to someone's soul, you have to dig deep, so the soleus is a deep muscle. Okay, so now we're looking at a side view of the leg. How do we know that? Well, we see the heel and the toes at the same time. We see the kneecap, but we're not looking at it straight on. We're looking at it from the side. You may also notice this calf muscle, the gastrocnemius, is back here. Okay, so gastrocnemius, and here's a great image showing that the soleus is deep to that. Okay, we've got a couple of muscles here. Fibularis, remember fibularis is on the lateral side, so this is fibularis longus. And notice that it has this very long tendon. And next to it, we're going to have the extensor digitorum longus. And this is the one that if you follow the tendons, they're going to go across the foot and extend to the digits. Now, on the back side of the lower arm, we had an extensor digitorum. In the leg, we have an extensor digitorum longus. The way I remember that the longest is the one in the leg is one you can think longest starts with an L, leg starts with an L. The other way you could remember it is you could remember that what's longer, your arms or your legs? Well, your legs. So the longest one, extensor digitorum longus, is in the legs. Okay, so it's right here. And then next to that, we've got the tibialis anterior, and this is right next to the tibia. I want to point out here's fibularis longus, and right here is fibularis brevis. So just like what we saw with the flexor carpi radialis longus, flexor carpi radialis brevis, the longest muscle, it's referring to the length of the tendon. And notice that the fibularis longus has this really long tendon. Fibularis brevis has a much shorter tendon. Okay, and so those are the muscle identifications. And so here's some more activities to help you practice this. Remember, for the practical exam, you need to be able to know the names of these muscles and for fill-in-the-blank questions, which means that just being able to recognize the name and recognize where it goes is going to get you halfway there. My suggestion for how to handle this is to pull up these same images in the book and actually take a piece of paper and cover up the names next to the leader lines and practice either writing or typing out the names from memory. If you only do these activities, it is not going to be enough for a good score on the practical exam. Okay?